All right, so this is my friend Kenna, and I actually met Kenna, probably like a month ago.
Yeah.
So I work for Youth for Christ, Shauna back there. And she actually works for Youth for Christ. I'm just on the board, so I get to help volunteer and serve and do things like that. But this is her daughter, Kenna. Kenna, why don't you just say hi to everyone and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so like she said, my name is Kenna. I'm a junior at Vinton-Shellsburg High School. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of share my testimony with all of you guys today.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Kenna has an awesome testimony of just the way that God's been working in her life, and I think you're just such an awesome light for your age. So yeah, I'll just let you take it away and I'll ask questions later.
Perfect. All right, so just kind of some background information about me is my life has always been really easy. I never truly felt like pain, sadness, or rejection. I was also raised in a very biblical home. My parents love me and support me regardless of what's going on. They were a huge part in why I set my foundation on God. And another thing is I grew up very active. So I was a big volleyball player and I fell in love with volleyball at a very young age. So when the time came and I entered high school and the volleyball season had started, I was so excited. The coaches had actually asked me to play up, and so my excitement was even bigger than just normal. I was so proud of myself, and kind of because of my accomplishments, I allowed myself to feel better than the people that were in my grade. I noticed myself not necessarily being the godly girl that I once was. It got kind of to the point where I didn't necessarily recognize who I was. So then after a few months into the season, I like to believe God humbled me. In a game, I had started feeling a weird pain in my shoulder. I was later then pulled from the game, and we were told to go see doctors. So for about 3 to 4 months, we went and saw many doctors who then determined that I had torn my labrum and I would need surgery. And then I was told that surgery date would be on December 23rd. So then I kind of remember having the surgery, and then the Christmas morning at 2 a.m, I had kind of the anesthesia had kind of just worn off. It was kind of my first real moment of waking up from what has been going on. And I woke up in the living room because I had to sit in a chair because I couldn't roll over in my bed, and I started feeling like I was suffocating because I was in this big sling and I had this ice machine on and all my Band-Aids, and I just started panicking and bawling. I felt this overwhelming feeling that I just couldn't shake. My body wasn't performing the way it was supposed to. I was 15, yet I really felt like an elderly person. I remember blaming God in every way. I started to resent him and despise him for giving me a challenge that I wasn't managing. So after a few minutes of after I had calmed down, I kind of started noticing something indescribable. I was mad and upset, but this time at myself. I was questioning how a girl like me could doubt the creator of this earth, the person that gave people far greater challenges than mine. How was I the one complaining? So kind of after this night, my mindset had changed. I apologized to God, and I started to thank him for the challenge because I knew that there was a reason for why he was giving it to me. So fast forward 4 months, in a lot of physical therapy, I was released back to sports. I was told from my surgeon that because I was young, I would heal quickly, which was the case. But after a few weeks of playing volleyball and other activities, I had still kind of noticed the pain. But this time I felt like it was worse, and it was more, it was just I don't know how to explain it. It just was bad. We then went to another surgeon who then told me that it wouldn't be shocking if I had re-tore my labrum. So after many more painful tests, they had found out that I did in fact re-tear it and that I would need a second surgery. The second surgery took a very long time the whole process took a very long time, but it definitely did go a lot smoother. The second surgery, I definitely had a feeling of clarity. I started acting more like the godly girl that I once was, and I allowed him to help me through the pain, and I walked alongside him versus trying to resent him for what he had been doing to me. About 9 months after that second surgery, I was then again cleared, this time with no pain and worries. And for me, that second surgery was a real eye-opener. I really looked at my life as a whole and decided that I'd rather live with joy than in pain. I also knew that God had something up his sleeve and allowed him to work his power to make me the girl that I once was. I also started to understand that we might not always know what he's doing, but he does. He has a plan, and he's positive that it'll work out in the end. We have to be able to know and trust that it's not our timing, it's his. And I just kind of want to close by saying thank you to all for being a part of my story. Thank you for being the light at the end of the tunnel. And lastly, thank you for showing me that God's timing is always good.
We need to give Kenna some praise. I'll be really honest and say it takes a lot of boldness to sit up here on a stage when you're really close like this and to share your testimony. And I'm just really thankful that God has brought you through that. And similar to Macy's story about how many hardships that she had to walk through, you had to walk through a lot of those too. And when it seems like God takes almost like your identity away, right?
Yeah.
Sports were your identity.
For
I can
sure.
relate to that too. And when all of a sudden like that thing that you found security in is all of a sudden crumbling down, well, you're like, what do? You're almost
lost.
like, you're lost.
Yeah.
You're running around.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. And so I just find that very admirable that at your age that you were able to seek God through that. So that's really awesome. But I do have a couple questions for you, okay? All right. So the first question I have is, what helped you on your journey of seeking after God?
Yeah, so I think for me, just knowing that the people around me were sent from Him and I could lean on them and feel vulnerable around them in a way that like He wanted me to. He wanted me to be able to trust people and know that they were sent from Him for me. And so just knowing that He was there and they were there helped just me understand that it was okay that it was happening. It sucks, but it was for a reason and a purpose. So yeah.
That's good. Oh, hold on, my questions. I was just processing too. I know this isn't a question on the list that I gave you, but just kind of in theme with what we just walked through in that worksheet is, we oftentimes when we're in those dark places, what were the negative thoughts that were going through your head during this season?
Yeah, so I feel for me, it was just the fact that I couldn't use my body, and then I blamed Him because when you're an all-sport athlete and you play every season, you're in pretty good shape. And so after months and months of not playing and not using my body, I had noticed just this feeling of overweight. Just I was just gaining fat that I never used to have, and just that kind of stuff. I started feeling I wasn't pretty because my friends were still in sports and they just had all these cool accomplishments that I was just sitting on the bench observing and watching. And so I feel just knowing that this was a reason He wanted me to feel this, to know that I was strong enough to handle it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So in turn, I know you kind of touched on it. What are how did God start to reveal Himself to you in this season?
Yeah, I feel especially in the second season, or the second surgery, He really just showed me that it was okay to feel sad and to feel the pain. I'm a pretty stubborn person, and I don't usually let my emotions get to me. So I feel knowing that He wanted me to feel stuff, He wanted me to be able to understand why, just showed such a important step in our relationship.
Yeah, He almost put you on a pause when you were probably in a season of go, go, go.
Yes,
and I feel
sure.
A lot of people can relate
yes.
to that when we're in a season of go and all of a sudden you're taken to a season of pause. That's good. Thank you for answering those. All right, so who is Jesus to you?
Jesus to me, I would say, is my foundation. He's my rock. He's who I can lean on when times get hard, and especially after realizing how hard it is to not have Him to lean on. Once you do have Him to lean on, you're not gonna go back. It's hard to not lean on Him once you know He's there and you trust Him, and my foundation.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Do you remember a point in time when that clicked for you?
I would say, I would have been that night, right, that I had woken up from
the surgery,
the Christmas night or whatever. I was just in the living room and it was Christmas and you're just so excited, but yet you're just so in pain, and then you're just I remember I was so mad at Him, and then my mindset had just changed because He has given people so many far greater challenges than mine, and I just I don't know how I could be the one complaining when people would be dying. It was a little labrum, it's not my whole life, you know what I mean? It's not everything. So,
yeah. That's good. God gives us, difficulties in the amount that we can handle it, and He knew that you could handle that,
yes.
And that's really powerful. And I'm sure too, looking back at your experience, sitting on the sidelines,
yes.
I mean, in a
It's
spiritual
hard,
sense,
yes.
physically you were sitting on the sidelines, but on the spiritual sense, sometimes God does pull us to the sidelines, and sometimes He calls
For
us
sure.
into the game. And so talk about what it was like, sitting physically on the sideline watching your teammates. Like, what was that for you? How was it hard?
It's kind of a pain that you can't describe. Like, knowing that you should be on the court, but then you look at yourself and you're in this huge bulky sling and you can't even lift your arm. Like, just knowing that like it should have been you, I guess. But then you have to also think like, I'm learning lessons that these girls aren't necessarily learning because they weren't given a challenge that I was given. Like, I feel like grateful for what has happened because it genuinely has made me a stronger and better person.
Amen. Yeah, amen to that. I often think of it too when we look back at our own testimonies over our faith walk with God, and He has us sometimes in the game, being on the field, doing things in the mission work at church, maybe helping out communities, but sometimes God calls us to the sidelines to be still so that He can show us things maybe that we wouldn't be able to see when we're on the court or when we're on the field. And so there's seasons, there's ebbs and flows of that, but like there's purpose behind the pain, I guess you could say.
Sure.
So my last question for you is, if you could give one piece of advice, I say this on my podcast all the time, but if you could give one piece of advice to someone who's seeking after God, what would you tell them?
I would say just to lean on Him regardless. It's kind of like you're going to do a trust fall with Him, but the thing is He's always going to be there. Like, He's not going to let you fall. Like, just knowing that, like, you really can lean on Him with every single thing you have in your life. Like, there's not one thing that He can't handle. I mean, He died on the cross for us. We have to be able to, like, trust Him and love Him just as He loves and trusts us.
Amen. That was good. We need to give Kenna a hand again. Awesome. Well, Kenna, thank you for coming up and sharing your testimony. Yeah. I'm so happy that you did this. Isn't it amazing when you see someone so young up here, it gets you so excited and it's so encouraging, and I know that you're such a light to your family and your friends, so thank you for doing that.